All right, so this is the Moon and Pisces child. I have a couple of other moon and sign videos for children, about children, for parents and caregivers. I didn't really, I didn't finish them, but I do have like Moon in Aquarius, and I think I have Moon in Sagittarius child. So this is subscriber requested. The subscriber has a Moon and Pisces child. I have one as well, and I also have done charts for Moon and Pisces folks, and I know a couple as well. So if you have a video idea, if you drop it in the comments in any video, I will sometimes see if I can do it. I did that for the 8th house video. A person had a particular question about planets in the 8th house, and when I did the 8th house video, I was able to put that in there. Someone had a question about their North Node. I was able to put that in there in the video. So sometimes I'm able to put certain things in videos if I have topics that align with that. So if you have ideas, drop them, please. And yeah, I'll see if I can do it. So, but if it gets too intricate, like if you're saying, hey, can you do the 9th house video next? That's really doable. If you're like, hey, I'm a sun in Capricorn, Mercury in Sagittarius, Moon in Virgo, Jupiter in Aquarius, Venus in Capricorn, what does that mean? When you start asking what a bunch of energy in your chart means, typically that's a reading, right? So sometimes if you have a very specific question that's very direct, I'll definitely answer it. But it takes up more energy for me to think about all of your placements and say what it means, because without seeing your whole chart, I don't like to make very definitive statements. But if it's something brief like, hey, is Mars in Libra the same as Mars in the 7th house? That's an easy question to answer. And also I have videos that answer some of your questions. So sometimes if you ask a question, I might just refer to a video that I've done where, I've already kind of laid that groundwork for that question. So when we're dealing with the Moon and Pisces child, you will see that I make a little parallel to other moon signs, because I want us to understand how the expression is going to look. So your Moon and Pisces child is a different type of energy than what you might see in your Moon in Cancer or your Moon in, what's another sign? The Moon in Scorpio, water sign. Because Pisces has this more open expression of emotion that is untampered. With Moon in Cancer, there's sometimes a little bit of emotional demand. Even with children in Moon in Cancer, you can tell when they're upset. You can tell when something bothers them, because Cancer is cardinal energy, so it has to go out. So even when they're not saying anything, it's an energy. You feel it, you see it. Moon in Scorpio children, sometimes, I said this even with Scorpio's sun, the difference here is the emotional filter it's not automatic. First of all, the moon is in fall when it's in Scorpio. So because of that, it's exalted in Taurus, but because of that, the moon not really functioning, it can't really openly express like it wants to in Scorpio. What happens is you need to now build their trust. So it's not automatic. Whereas Moon in Pisces is the most sensitive, but the most welcoming. But it's also the most, it's not going to express its emotions as clearly, right? So we're now Moon in Pisces, where it's internalizing everything they feel. And that's good when you have a child that's kind. Moon and Pisces children can be really kind. Like they understand when others are hurt. They might be the child, if they see someone else hurt, they're going to go make sure they're okay, right? So you don't want the child to lose that kindness, because a lot of people aren't kind. You got kids doing crazy stuff, right? So you don't want your Moon and Pisces child to lose that. Once we get into the older ages, that's when you do want to teach them well, you can teach them at any age where they're old enough to understand boundaries though. Like if someone's being mean to you, you don't have to keep being nice to them, right? If somebody's taking advantage of you, they have to learn that, especially let's say you have a child that's up in age 11 or something like that. And the old school thing, the bully's taking, the lunch money. But let's say it's not someone taking the lunch money. Maybe it's like a friend the friend told them, oh, I don't have a lot of money. So the Moon and Pisces child is paying for their lunch every day. Well, it's up to you to teach the child whether that makes sense to do every day, or if they're taking advantage of them, right? Like they don't have that. And again, especially if the child has other Pisces placements in the chart, which sometimes can happen, or other water, where they want to, kind of care for other people. And so there's not a lot of limits when you're very kind or compassionate. And yes, you'll see this even in extroverted sun signs. My son is an Aries. He's young, but he's old enough to talk and all that stuff. And he runs around the house, talks, does things just like anybody else. He's, not in school yet, but he's an Aries, and he's 2 other Aries placements as well. And so he thinks he's tough, right? He thinks so, but he's really sensitive. So even though on the out, like, not tough, but he's very vocal and he's very direct. He's a Mercury in Aries. And it's kind of funny. He's also a little jokester, but he's very direct. But he's also sweet and very sensitive. And like, he's the kid that goes around the house. He tells everyone he loves them. He's the kid. And my daughter's older than him by a couple years. Like, he's really good with your belongings. Like, if I lose something, he'll give it to me. Like, he's really like perceptive in that way, and kind of like, oh, this is yours, I'm gonna give this to you. He's really respectful of other people's things, which is interesting because you don't always see that, with a child that age, and a boy as well, because yes, he is very active. He's a very active, playful boy, but you don't always see that age, that kind of, oh, that's mommy's, that's daddy's, I'm gonna give that back to them, or they left this laying here, right? He doesn't like to mess anybody else's stuff up. So already at a young age, he has an understanding of how other people might feel, right? And so, when it comes to what they need, so, there is that sensitivity there. Now, the problem with the sensitivity is, not problem, but with Moon and Pisces individuals, so as an adult, and then you have to think about as a kid how you're going to teach them this. A lot of adults, Moon and Pisces, have to learn the world is harsh, right? So even, with that, like my son, he doesn't like loud noises. He doesn't like loud noises, like in the house. Like if I'm, if somebody's yelling to the other room to get something, or the vacuum cleaner, he doesn't like loud. He just doesn't. Even though he likes to be loud. Like, he'll run around the house, do whatever he wants to do, play his game all loud, laughing and stuff like that. But he doesn't like when we do that. He doesn't like his peace to be disturbed. But when you get to be an adult, what I've seen with Moon and Pisces is sometimes there's this inability to understand the world can be harsh, and the world isn't as open and kind and compassionate as Moon and Pisces is. And so when you're children, I think especially as you get old enough to understand more difficult topics, it's really about how you kind of introduce those to those things, things that happen in the news, things of that nature. Because what I've seen sometimes in Pisces adults, Moon and Pisces adults especially, is this feeling, they assume, it's this assumption, because you feel that compassion so strong, that you, this assumption that that other people are going to have that same reaction to things as you do. That when you're sad and you're depressed or you're upset, that other people are going to empathize with you. Moon in Pisces was like, I empathize with others. Why don't they empathize with me? So it's really understanding reality. Because remember, Pisces is the absence of reality. It's the absence of the facts. Whereas the opposite sign, Virgo, is dealing with the facts, but doesn't have the same level of necessarily that compassionate, or doesn't understand it in that same way. So obviously the opposite signs learn from each other what to have. So there's that difference there, right? And so, they might feel things in a more spiritual level, because Pisces, to some Pisces individuals, there is a lot of energy dealing with karmic, past reincarnation, things of that nature. So, there is sometimes this level of them knowing what the ideal world should look like, but not realizing that the whole world doesn't function the way they do. And what happens over time to some of them is they just become, despondent. Over time, for some individuals, if you're not molding their sensitivity, if you're not teaching them how to handle their emotions and how to channel it positively, and how to maybe take their compassion and put it into something creative, what happens is they can rebel against it. I knew a child who had Moon in Pisces. I don't remember the sun sign, maybe a Capricorn, Aquarius, Sagittarius. It was something within there, those months. But the child had a Moon in Pisces, and the Moon in Pisces child did the same thing. My son, was very kind when he was around certain people. But when he was around other people, he displayed behaviors that weren't so, good for his character. So the Moon in Pisces child, you could say the Moon in Cancer child environment is important, right? Because that nurturing element, right? You're teaching them how to handle their emotions. With the Moon in Pisces, it's important because you're teaching them what to be. Because Pisces energy is beautiful, but it struggles to be. It struggles with the reality of things. So we're teaching them how to do that. Now, once you get to be an evolved Pisces adult, you don't need anybody teaching you anything, because Pisces has a lot of, symbolically, Pisces is ancient knowledge. It's that spiritual stuff. It's things that we can't always explain. And that's why some Pisces individuals bring it out in their creativity. because it's hard to explain what this creative process and imagination and this, you know, that's a lot of times I see like Pisces things outside the box, similar to Aquarius. But Aquarius, it's more so a point. It's a point, like I'm trying to change something. I'm trying to have an outcome. Pisces is just showing us things. It's like a show and tell. I'm just going to show you this. And people are like, wow, that's amazing, because y'all are bringing, Moon and Pisces people bring what we can't see into reality. If they are confident enough to do that, that's the thing. But I was saying with the environment is that, you know, you're teaching them how to handle reality, and you're teaching them whether they can be themselves or whether they have to be somebody they're not really, right? When your moon is in Pisces, you're emotionally teaching them how to handle things, and you're kind of molding. It's molding. All the mutable signs can be adaptable, but especially with water, because water that doesn't take any form. And I say all the time, Pisces is a stream. I say Scorpio's ice and Cancer is rain, because you're going to know when Cancer feels a certain way. Okay. And so Pisces is stream, and you can't really control that stream, that direction, right? But when you're trying to think of how your child is going to emotionally handle things, you're trying to help them see reality by not stunning who they are. Because what Pisces really wants is acceptance and understanding. That's what Moon and Pisces, they want you to understand. That's why I say some of you, if you are a parent who has no Pisces in your chart, slow down, listen to your child, right? You know, listen to what they're feeling and what they're saying. And you're going to learn a lot more than assuming you know what they want, because the Moon in Pisces is internalizing everything you do. Okay. One thing, an example that I have, so I know someone who was Moon in Pisces, who is a very close-knit family, and this person's reality and emotional core is centered because this person has had a very supportive family growing up. I know another Moon in Pisces person where their family structure might have been more, I guess you could say, likened to, you know, just not having a really good upbringing, or there was, you know, maybe some abusive tendencies. And this person had to kind of determine what their emotions were, get comfortable with their emotions and what their vision of family was, you know, not being as skeptical about their emotion, giving in to their emotions, having a more difficult time, because that was not cemented as a child. And when you, as a Moon in Pisces, any child really, but when you're a Moon in Pisces child and you don't feel understood or accepted or listened to, because Moon in Pisces is ready to be empathetic. They're ready to listen to you. They're ready to connect to you. They're ready to do that. But when you think, when you're raised a different way, where you're raised where nobody listens to you, nobody asks you how you are, nobody tries to really understand you, because Pisces energy in general feels misunderstood. It feels completely misunderstood. And again, it's because sometimes it's like the energy of Pisces is not of this world, you know. And again, I can do a whole video on that and, you know, what that means. And there's a lot to that karmically and symbolically and all of that. But you are teaching them what the reality is. And the reality is sometimes you're going to have to teach them those harsh lessons that children, they might be sensitive to. But the thing that's interesting about Pisces is they can usually handle it when you mold it for them and you teach it to them. Because it's interesting that I feel like I've seen like Moon in Pisces, they understand when something's not right. If you explain it to them, not again, age appropriate stuff, but like we can assume that we're protecting them because they're so sensitive. But actually, you know, it's a trade-off, you know, where you're teaching them boundaries, but you're also teaching them to embrace who they are, right? While also at the same time introducing them to reality. So that way, when they get older, they're not shocked. You know, a lot of times we can look at sensitive people and like, oh, we're just going to let them be. They can't handle that. He's so sensitive. She's so sensitive. They can't handle it. But you don't want your child to get into a situation where they're now older, or they're going off on their own, or they're going away to college, or they're doing something on their own. And now that reality hits them and they don't know how to appropriately respond and begin. When Pisces doesn't have purpose, and this could be some of the other mutables, but especially Pisces, because Pisces is supposed to have purpose. But a lot of times the reality of the world and the harsh demands of the world, it kind of, doesn't care about creativity, doesn't care about imagination, doesn't care about your sensitivity, right? This world doesn't always do that. So they can fit into the wrong group. It can go into the wrong group. because they want to feel so accepted. So your job as a parent is to make your child feel accepted for who they are. So that way, when they get to be older, they're not going out trying to find that somewhere else. And by acceptance, I simply mean this uniqueness, whatever makes them them. Don't make them feel different than you, even if they are different than you. Embrace what they bring. If you're an extroverted family and your child is an extra Pisces or a Pisces moon, and you're teasing them, you're making fun of them, they are sensitive. They're internalizing all of that. And you are building their reality. And so when people really shy away from what they're really supposed to be, a lot of times it started with the family. It didn't start with that bully down the block. It started because your family told you you couldn't be that, you couldn't do that, that wasn't acceptable. And you started to think like, well, I can't be myself. And so you have to be that first person. You have to be that first stop on their journey for them really embracing who they are, embracing what makes them unique, giving them their alone time, allowing them to explore their hobbies. Don't push their hobbies on them. You can suggest things you want them to do, but if they have a natural talent for something, nurture that. Even if it's something different than what you do, even if it's something you never heard of, if there's something positive that this child is using and that emotionally fulfills them, it's important because emotionally they are connected to this sensitivity. And Pisces does want to feel like they are noticed, but accepted for who they are. So pushing them to feel ways you feel is not always going to be conducive to them developing who they're supposed to be. So that is it for Moon and Pisces. Again, we would have to look at the whole chart to see how other things would play into this situation. But that is basically it for this video. Thank you for watching.